Ah, Portugal, land of salted cod, endless sunshine, and the uncanny ability to irritate emperors. But let me ask you this. What happens when a tiny kingdom at the edge of Europe decides to defy the most powerful man on the continent? Napoleon Bonaparte himself? Well, my friends, you get a comedy of errors disguised as an imperial invasion. And I, King Arthur, yes, that one, shall guide you through this royal disaster of 1807. But before we dive into betrayal, boats, and a lot of French confusion, do take a moment to honor your kingdom. Like this video, subscribe to the Royal Chronicles, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Would you have stood against Napoleon, or packed your things like the Portuguese court? Now then, it all started with Napoleon throwing a tantrum. You see, the man had conquered much of Europe, but the British Isles remained annoyingly unconquerable. So he thought, if I can't crush Britain by sea, I'll starve them. Thus, the Continental System was born, an ambitious economic blockade meant to cut Britain off from all European trade. Sounds clever, yes? Except one small thing. Portugal politely refused. They liked British money and wine, and honestly, they just didn't care much for French demands. Napoleon, of course, was enraged. Portugal's stubborn loyalty to Britain was not only insulting, it was contagious. Spain was already full of questionable allies, and the emperor didn't want disobedience spreading like the flu. So he devised a plan. Send French troops through Spain to occupy Portugal under the pretense of joint control. Spoiler alert, this was less of a partnership and more of a robbery with polite paperwork. In November 1807, French forces under General Junot crossed into Portugal. They met virtually no resistance, partly because Portugal was militarily unprepared, and partly because the Portuguese royal family decided, you know what? Let's leave. And leave they did, aboard an entire fleet, with British naval protection and with enough treasures to make a dragon blush. I must admit, I admire the sheer pettiness of it. Rather than surrender to Napoleon, the Braganzas packed up the court, the archives, the crown jewels, and said, good luck with the paperwork, frogs. They set sail for Brazil, transforming Rio de Janeiro into the new imperial capital. Imagine that, an empire that simply sailed away. Meanwhile, poor Junot arrived in Lisbon expecting a dramatic confrontation and found instead an empty palace and a slightly awkward silence. He installed a French administration, issued new taxes, and generally tried to act like he was in control. But the locals weren't exactly thrilled to be colonized by an army that spoke bad Portuguese and worse manners. And then, like every bad party, the British showed up. Led by Sir Arthur Wellesley, soon to be the Duke of Wellington, the British launched a counter-invasion in 1808. They beat Junot at the Battle of Vimeiro, forced the French to sign the humiliating Convention of Sintra, which let them go home, bizarrely, and reignited Portuguese resistance. What followed was the Peninsular War, a messy, brutal guerrilla conflict that bled Napoleon's army dry. Now you may be asking, but King Arthur, wasn't Napoleon a military genius? Oh, indeed he was. But even the best generals make dumb decisions when they assume everyone else is dumber. Invading Portugal wasn't just about punishing defiance, it opened a front Napoleon could not afford. He underestimated the terrain, the people, and worst of all, the resolve of a monarchy that preferred exile over surrender. It was the beginning of the end for his Iberian ambitions. The invasion he thought would be a formality became a festering wound, and from that wound bled the myth of Napoleonic invincibility. And so, dear viewers, we're left with a tale of imperial hubris, royal defiance, and a kingdom that refused to be bullied. The Braganzas might have fled, but they turned Brazil into an empire. Napoleon took Lisbon, yes, but what he couldn't take was control. Portugal endured, rebelled, and fought back. In the end, it was Napoleon who lost more than he ever imagined. If you enjoyed this royal unraveling of history's biggest ego, do click the like button. It helps keep the scrolls unrolled. Subscribe for more of my commentary on mankind's less than brilliant decisions, and let me know in the comments. If your kingdom was about to be invaded, would you fight, flee, or fake your own death? Till next time, this is King Arthur, signing off from a world that keeps proving it's stranger than legend.